Welcome to KSL News at 9. It's a once-in-a-decade opportunity to use census data to reconfigure districts for state and federal leadership positions.
Yeah, and we all know that redistricting has been a heated topic across the country, with worries state political parties are gerrymandering districts in their favor. There's been some controversy over the new maps released by a Utah Legislative Committee last night. Garna Mejia is going to look into that for us in a moment. But first, how did we get here? Well, back in 2018, Utahns overwhelmingly voted for Proposition 4, which would create a nonpartisan independent commission that would draw legislative maps, and then the legislature would vote on them.
Well, in 2020, the legislature tried to overturn that voter-supported proposition, but ultimately landed on a compromise between what the voters wanted and what the legislators wanted.
Now the Independent Commission and the Legislative Committee have to submit maps to the legislature, but state officials don't have any mandate to vote on the maps created by the Independent Commission. The compromise also gets rid of the right of private citizen lawsuits if the legislature approves maps different than the commission.
We now have maps from both the Independent Commission and the Legislative Committee. Here's one of 3 congressional district maps from the Independent Redistricting Committee, which was given an A rating by the Princeton team that looks at gerrymandering. And here is the map submitted late last night by the Republican-led Legislative Commission. Legislators will gather Tuesday in a special session to decide who Utahns will vote for over the next 10 years. It's a heated topic for both sides of the aisle. News specialist Garna Mejia is looking at what this means for both sides. Garna?
Yeah, good evening, Debbie. The maps impact boundaries for the state's House and Senate, school board, and the high-profile, of course, congressional district map. We will zero in on that. Now, the legislator will have 4 choices. According to a BYU professor, though, there is a mathematical way to determine the bias of each of the 4 maps.
Here are the 4 options of what Utah's future congressional district boundaries could look like. 3 of the maps were submitted by Utah's Independent Redistricting Commission. The 4th was proposed by the Republican-led Legislative Redistricting Committee. Katie Wright, Executive Director of Better Boundaries Utah, the proponent of Prop 4, is supporting the commission's maps.
We were incredibly impressed with the commission's work. First of all, everything they did was fully transparent.
When it comes to the committee's map, Wright has some reservations.
I think it's important to note that those maps were drawn behind closed doors.
The committee's map would essentially split Salt Lake County into 4 congressional districts. Republican State Senator Scott Sandel told the Deseret News their map includes rural and urban areas in every district. But putting politics aside, Dr. Travis Jarvis, mathematics professor at BYU, put each of the 4 maps to the test. He used a complex algorithm that involves more than 100,000 possible blind maps and info from Utah's previous elections to predict various scenarios and voter preferences.
10 different elections, so the governor election in 2016.
Based on that info, Jarvis says every once in a while in Utah, a Democratic representative will be elected. An unbiased map would reflect that possibility. And when it comes to the commission's maps, Jarvis says they pass the test, as represented by purple, red, and orange dots.
Well, the orange will sometimes give the Democrats a seat and sometimes not a seat.
But the committee's map, represented by the blue dots, is a different story.
The blue is always giving the Democrats 0 seats and the Republicans all the seats. Even when there are more votes in favor of the Democrats.
Now, it is important to note that the model that Jarvis put out predicts that it's only one of the 4 representatives who are elected will be a Democrat on occasion. Now, moreover, according to Wright, the commission's maps did not take into consideration an incumbent's address, whereas the committee's map did. So back to you.